Hi there, Sandy from sandybowie.com, and in this week's video we're going to talk about 3 common fears that are holding you back from list building and obviously what to do about them. So, have you been avoiding doing your list building activities in your business? I know there's a lot of things that we can do to build our list, and we've all heard the statement, yeah, the money's in the list, right? We've all heard that. But there's a lot of coaches out there who are doing marketing activities, but they're not necessarily the right ones that they need to do to be able to build their list. So maybe doing a blog, for example, but not having anywhere on your website that someone can sign up so they get follow-up email and newsletters from you. Or maybe you're posting in Facebook groups or something like that. But again, you haven't designed a freebie or somewhere where people can then join your list, or you don't invite them to join your list so that they can build a relationship with you and start to take that relationship a bit further. Now, this is a really common problem, and I know we can sort of pretend and almost delude ourselves sometimes that, the marketing activities that we're doing are going to bring the clients in. But really, what we need is a list of potential followers who might at some point be interested in working with us, people that we can help. But we avoid doing that. We avoid building our list. And I know this for a fact because I used to avoid building my list as well. And I know that there's a lot of women out there that are doing exactly the same thing right now. And it's not because we don't want people on our list, because we desperately want people on our list, but we're scared. When I realised that actually I was afraid to build my list, I started to look at the reasons why, because I'd never considered it before. I mean, I was procrastinating like mad, not doing all of the things, and deluding myself that I was doing some marketing, but it wasn't the right type. And when I started to look at that, I realised it was fear that was holding me back. And as I sort of started working with more and more women around their fears of building and growing their business, I realised that we all have these things in common. So there's 3 big ones that come up that get in the way, and that's what I wanted to talk through today. So fear number 1, and this is all about regularly emailing your list and the fact that it's going to be overwhelming and a lot of work. I used to think that for definite. To me, having a list of people on my email, on the software meant overwhelm, pressure. How am I going to keep up with all of that? Because I knew from experience how much time it used to take me just doing this weekly blog, to add in more emails on top of that, writing newsletters, that just seemed like an awful lot of work to me. And the coaches were sort of saying at the time, well, you need to be emailing your list a minimum of 3 times a week. And I'm like, oh my goodness, how am I going to manage all of that? So my perception was email list means a lot of work, so no wonder I was avoiding building it. I didn't have a free opt-in for ages. I completely avoided designing one, but I didn't know that all of this was happening unconsciously, that I was stopping building my list, having people on there, because really it was the end outcome, which was this overwhelm, all this extra work that I was actually trying to avoid. Makes sense, right? So how did I overcome that? Well, first of all, I just made a bargain with myself, right? So I agreed with myself that no matter what, if I even had one person on my email list, I would just email them once a week. That was it. That was enough. And I would email them to tell about the weekly blog that I just put up. That was all I was going to do. And until I moved past that point and felt comfortable doing any more, I wasn't going to do any more. I just completely took that pressure off myself. So, this thing about trying to be perfect. Oh, well, the coach says I've got to email 3 times a week, so I need to email 3 times a week. I was like, no, I'm going to do what feels good for me right now, because if it feels good for me, then it's going to feel good for the people on my list as well. And like I say, that just took the pressure off, and I started to feel good about the thought that, yeah, I could cope with people on my list. That was good enough for then. Trust me, that was good enough. So now number 2 is kind of in a similar vein, but producing regular content. The fear of actually, what am I going to write about? And this was something that I had already for writing my blog. Like, what do my people want to hear about? What are they interested in? And that pressure I was putting on myself to produce something that was different every week, something that stood out, that was a lot. And if I had people on my newsletter as subscribers, that pressure would be more intense. I'd be like, what am I going to write? I don't know what to write about. So that was a big problem as well. And again, unconsciously, I was not building my list because I didn't want to have all of those issues come through. So I did a few things with that actually, and one of the things I did, I'll tell you about a couple, but one of the things I did was I created an anchor, literally to my laptop if you like, that when it comes time to sit down at my laptop and start writing, even if I've got a blank sheet of paper, and sometimes the heading is all I start out with, that's it, I'm like, okay, so I've got an idea, and then it just comes. So I created an anchor that when it's time to sit down and it's time to write my weekly newsletter, my weekly blog, the idea comes. And I've trained my mindset to go through like a routine. So on the day of the week when I sit down and I write my content, I've trained, my mind that it goes through a routine. We maybe do certain things, might have a cup of tea beforehand, that sort of thing. And then it's time, right, I tell myself I'm going to sit and write my newsletter now, and guess what? I maybe don't even have an idea up until that point in time, and then I sit down, I open the laptop, open a Word document, and a heading comes out of nowhere, and I just start writing from there. So I've created an anchor that always works. I know when I sit down at my laptop, the content is going to come. The other thing that I also did as well was journaling. So instead of worrying about what it is that I'm going to write as well, I journal every day now. And I know for a fact that the things that are on my mind that I'm journaling about are going to be on my clients and my followers' minds as well. So I can just flick through and regularly review what's going on there. My topic ideas come up from there as well for what I'm going to write on my blog. So whatever's going on with me generally comes out through my writing and through my content. So those are two things that have made a big difference for me in terms of not feel overwhelmed by the pressure of trying to come up with new ideas all the time. So here we go, number 3. Well, this potentially is actually the biggest one. Being afraid to make offers to your list. Because guess what? Once you have a list, you need to make offers to them. That's the way it works, right? Or you can still hide from them, because I've done that as well, and not make any offers. I've definitely done that too. But, the whole point of having the list is to make offers. It's to make that regular contact with them, to get the know, like and trust, to get them to trust you more, to get them to feel like, well, you're the person that can help them with this thing, right? So when you've got them on your email, you want to have that regular contact with them, and you want to invite them to take that stage further, because you know that you can help them, right? You know that. But you don't want to make those offers and feel like one of those, those cold callers, that really pushy cold callers that you get at home that are obnoxious and they're annoying, and you're like, just go away, you're so tacky, it's unbelievable. So we don't want to come across like that. And there's a lot of people out there actually teaching, sales techniques and copy and everything, and telling you that it's not tacky when actually it is still tacky. So you have to find your own way through that as well. And how I did that was I simply came up with one offer. It was a no-brainer offer, something that I thought, you know what, I feel really good about offering this to anyone that's on my list. It doesn't feel tacky to me. It feels helpful, and it just feels, you know, in the sort of right alignment with who I am and what I do. I came up with one offer, and I just repeated that offer again and again and again. And off the back of that, so my one offer was a fear busting session, just a one-off mini intensive where I worked through a particular fear that a potential client has, and we work on sort of overcoming that fear, but also putting a plan in place for how they're going to work with it, so that they can work around the fear and still keep moving. That's essentially what it's all about. But I felt good about offering that, and that was the most important thing. It didn't feel icky to me in any way whatsoever, and I stuck to that. In fact, I still offer it now because it feels good. You know, a lot of people out there are suggesting that, you know, you go in with your high-end offer straight away and you do a discovery call and you try and get this person that you absolutely don't know into a high-end program, which, you know, may cost £5,000 to £10,000 or more, whatever. Now, that just didn't feel comfortable to me at all. And like, what I feel strongly about is moving forward, not staying stuck until, you know, this thing where you think, well, I need to feel ready to be able to do that. But actually, your fear is always going to hold you back because it just doesn't feel right for you to do that right now. So for me, it's always about understanding and working around your fear, you know, so you know it exists. And the word fearless to me is, it doesn't exist. There's no point where you're not going to feel any fear. So you have to work with your fear. You have to work around it and figure out, right, okay, so what can I do instead then? What is going to feel comfortable for me? How can I still move forward, still build my confidence, even although I have this fear? That is the secret to me, and that is how I've managed to finally get past my fears that were holding me back for months and months and months and months. You know, it took me about 6 months or so before I actually, you know, did a free opt-in and started to get people on my list. These things can hold you back for months, but they don't need to. You just have to find the right coach that understands how to work with your fear and still move forward. So I hope this has been helpful to you. If list building is something that you've been struggling with, and it's mainly around sort of the fear and you've been avoiding it, so you know what to do, but you've been avoiding it, then book a fear busting session with me, and we will talk about how to work with your fear and how to work around it and how to get past it without necessarily having to attack it or try and get rid of it. Like, we just have to understand that it's there. Because trust me, there is absolutely no fear out there that is so big and so great that you cannot overcome it. I guarantee it.